Gilbert Gottfried, and this is Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal Podcast. I'm here with my co-host Frank Santopadre at Radio City Music Hall, backstage from America's Got Talent. Our guest this week is comedian, actor, TV host, voice actor, and game show host who's appeared in hit TV shows.
It's me, it's Howie. It doesn't matter. Nobody's writing this down. Who wrote that down? Who gave you that piece of paper you're reading? Frank.
Yeah.
I could tell it's not you.
Yeah.
I want to tell people who, you're behind the scenes here at AGT. Gilbert, you are my absolute favorite comedian. I love you as a person. I've known you for years. But the thing is, and I would say yes to whatever you ever wanted me to do, but I have never been to a more complicated, different broadcast than this. He said, can we come backstage and do it? There is a crew of 9. I'm not sure what anybody's doing. Somebody's just holding an iPhone up, and then we have a photographer for a podcast.
Yeah.
So you can see shots of this
Audio
podcast.
only podcast.
Okay. They set up. They were looking for plugs. We didn't have enough pillows for Gilbert to start. Can we start? He goes, I need a pillow. His wife Dara gave him 3 pillows. We couldn't start. We were about to start. Then his wife said to him, Gilbert, do you have to make a pee-pee? She did. She took you down the hall to pee-pee, which I thought was kind of nice and a little motherly and that. When you finished making a pee-pee, we were about to start, and she actually said to your co-host, Frank, do you have to go to the bathroom? He didn't have to go to the bathroom. And then Frank laid out. Frank has got an array of cards. He's really prepared. I think he's done... He's been on Wikipedia for years,
weeks of
and
research.
wrote you obviously my bio for an intro. And you know how at the end of the day, guys wear pants longer than women wear pants. But sometimes I wear pants for 3 days, and then my wife says, let's throw those in the laundry, and you empty shit out of the pockets. There's little crumpled pieces of paper, and you don't know what those crumpled pieces of paper are. Somebody else? Are you with somebody just walked in the room. You're with Frank? Do you have something to do with this podcast? Who are you?
I have no clue. I just turn up every time they do a podcast.
What?
That's our social media director.
The social media director, on time. That's great.
So
Before you do any social media, do you have
Yeah.
to pee? And I'm not asking for me. I'm asking for Gilbert's wife. All right. So anyway, you know how you pull shit out of you don't even know. Since I was 6 years old, little boy, there's always shit in the bottom of my pocket.
Yeah, like
little crumpled up pieces of paper and
tissues
and lint and shit like that. Gilbert takes out these little crumpled pieces of shit and lint and little piece of paper and puts a pile near the microphone, and I go, what's that? And Frank said, that's his notes. That's what he prepared. It's a little shitty pile of garbage.
Yes.
And the stuff looks illegible. Did you go to I didn't, so I'm not making fun.
Yeah.
Did you go to college?
No.
You didn't?
Yeah, no.
Do you have a GED?
No,
I don't
have
either.
Nothing. You don't?
I don't
you
have a-
didn't graduate high school?
No, I was asked to leave because
yeah.
when I see this pile of shit that you call preparation, it reminded me of my academic history. That looked like one of my projects.
It's definitely what serial killers.
Yes.
Got a Ted Kaczynski vibe.
It does have that. When
Yeah.
they go in and they look at there'll be like a head in the fridge, and then there's
Yeah.
that kind of shit taped to the wall.
The
There's a
movie
little.
7, you've seen that?
I did see
Yeah.
7, but
Yeah.
this is 2.
Yeah.
This is.
It's not even 7.
Are there notes? Are you ever going to look at any of those notes?
I don't think so.
But I love that about you. See, I found out a new thing. We're akin. That's how I don't prepare for anything.
Yeah.
I have nothing. That's why you can come backstage at AGT. This is the #1 show on television, and I'm doing no preparation but watching you and your cohorts pee and take garbage out of their pockets. Are you comfortable with it? What are the pillows doing for you? What do they do on this podcast? Oh, this guy just showed up with a camera. All right. It's okay. And you have a photographer?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a big operation.
It is a big operation. When you see all these people who look like they know what they're doing and these 3 little shitty pieces of paper, it reminds me of that song, one of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. But then when I see
Yes.
the shit that you prepared and the nothing that's gone together, then it makes sense when Dara says, "Do you have to pee now?" And you don't say, "Yes, I have to pee." You go like you were reminded.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Oh, yes. Like if she didn't say that halfway through this podcast, there'd be a moistness that nobody would want. Thank God she reminded you. Anyway, I sorry to interrupt my introduction, but you were a quarter way through.
Should I continue?
I don't know.
with
How much
your
did you
intro?
write, Frank? You really overdid it.
Not that long.
It is that long. It's not even on one card. Look
Why
at this.
don't you read it?
Look at I will.
You read it, my
I'll try
voice.
to read it.
This
This
is
is
better.
it.
Read it as me.
Our guest this week is a comedian, actor, TV host, voice actor, and game show host who's appeared in hit TV shows like St. Elsewhere, Bobby's World, and Deal or No Deal, and in movies such as Little Monsters, Walk Like a Man, and Gremlins, playing everything from a monster, living on... I gotta pee. Can somebody take me to pee? Is my wife around? Can she take me to piss? Why would you ever think that this whole thing...
Well, the guests honor us by coming on the show, and
Did
we like
we
to
ever-
repay the favor.
Did you say your name?
Nice intro.
I'm Howie Mandel.
Okay.
Howie Mandel!
We like to
didn't say
respect
my
the
name.
guests.
But there's so much work. Like he wrote it out. He wrote out a card,
Yeah.
and the card is in. Usually, these cards. These are they 9 by 12, 9 by 8 by
8 by 11.
8 by 11s. But he turned it the 11 way. It's like it's vertical. And then he spent some time with some Scotch tape. It's like a really bad. It's like a special needs art project that you did. For one more sentence, you couldn't even change your font to get it on one card. When did you know you were going to make two cards? Did you take two blank cards, Frank, and make the tape?
Yes.
The difference
Yeah.
between these are two guys that work together. You should put this on social media. But this is a guy who takes two cards. And this is wow. What? Oh my God. Are you dyslexic? Are you? I don't want to make fun, but your writing is.
He's not.
It's not even English. I see OCD, trap, Moosey.
I was trying to spell
Oh, Mousy Gardner.
Mousy Gardner, yeah.
Mousy Gardner.
Gardner.
That's what all you prepared for me.
Yeah.
OCD and Mousy Gardner.
Mousy Gardner.
My mental health issue and a guy we both worked with 26 years ago.
There's this
And
one,
this
too.
guy, this is before the show starts. This is what he prepared. This was the I'll do the introduction and I'll do the show, Gilbert said. You don't know, I hate that this is a podcast. This is better television than a podcast. But if you could see what I'm holding up and maybe you go, where do they go to see this?
The podcast,
You have so many people with cameras and shit. Where did they see this?
on our Facebook page or on Gilbert's website, gilbertgodfrey.com.
GilbertGodfrey.com.
Yeah.
This is the content of the show.
That's it.
This is the introduction.
Yeah. They're a little,
How long is each broadcast?
We're a little out of balance. Somewhere between an hour and a half.
This is an hour and a half.
You also left this one out.
Oh,
You're shortchanging him, Howie.
my God. Oh, my God.
Look at that.
Oh, you know what's funny? This makes so much sense to me. It really does. The warts, the cough when you saw me in Chicago.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gremlins?
Yeah.
Gremlins.
With a B.
Oh my!
Potty,
That's
pill,
so
ball.
weird that you're able to make sense of it.
No, this makes sense. This is how I write. This is why I was asked to leave
Wow.
school. It's exactly, you have whatever it is I have. I was diagnosed with some shit, but I am, I couldn't write an essay. Never wrote an essay. I couldn't even focus to read anything, let alone write anything. So I don't have a GED. I didn't go to, my kids are far more educated than I ever was. But, we did okay, huh?
Not bad.
One of my craziness, about a million ones, is if I've got socks that are the same color, I like to make them into a pair. Like if I've got a bunch of white socks.
Isn't that what the factory does?
Yeah, no. But rather than if you put them in a drawer.
When you buy the socks.
Yeah, then they're a pair. Yeah.
made by somebody else.
Yeah. But if you get a bunch of socks that all look the same and they're in a drawer, I don't like the idea of mixing one from one pair with the other.
Nobody does.
So what I do
People
is
try to keep pairs together.
but I'll sew a dot with thread on the toe of my socks.
No, you don't.
Well, these already were a different type. They had something
These are
on.
the dotless
Yes,
socks.
yeah.
You
But
sew.
I sew a dot.
Where do you get these dots?
No, I mean out of thread. I just start
Just white
threading
thread.
it,
It's a black sock.
and
So
it
make
makes
a white.
dot.
Okay, and
so I'll put a little thing at the toe.
Yeah.
This is the black one with the black one, the red one with the red one, and it makes them into actual pairs.
I wish you could see Howie's reaction.
Oh my God!
You actually get a needle and thread and
Yes.
sew yourself?
Yes.
Why can't I
And
picture
are your
that?
kids witness to this? Like they're saying, "Oh, don't bother Daddy now."
he's organizing
He's sewing dots.
his sock.
He's-
Now, how did, aside from germs, you being a germaphobe, aside from that, how has OCD affected you?
Well, I have a lot of things. I have anxiety disorder. I have depression. I'm affected by everything. I have no attention span. OCD specifically. OCD, the germaphobe, is such a small, weird, and it's only, I can't touch other people's hands.
Yeah.
I can touch everything else. I have 3 children, and I did it without
You
even
change
touching
diapers,
her hands.
assumedly.
Pardon me?
You change diapers. when
I'm
they're-
wearing diapers. I'm totally potty trained.
Your children.
I get it.
Yeah.
What I was doing there was
Yeah, I get it.
comedy. I know I don't look prepared, but I did change. I'll change diapers. I think I've told this story before. I am a germaphobe a little bit, and I've got to, and with all my issues, for me, comedy has been a great bridge. And all kidding aside, well, I want to keep it in the middle, but it's where I wasn't functioning. I couldn't go to school. I didn't have any friends. So just my own sensibility and my own sense of humor was what kept me alive. I don't have one friend from when I was a kid. And when you're strange and when you're different as a child, I think that what people want to do is they want to conform. Everybody wants kids. They want to dress. They want to have the same shoes their friends have. They want to act. I wasn't like a wisecracker where somebody say I'm really funny. I was more of just a standout. I was in high school. I was 4'9" or 10, 89 pounds. So girls didn't want to meet me. I was like a dwarf. I was like a Keebler elf. You need me to be a little closer? You could say it out loud. It's okay. The people know other people are here. We're not doing this ourselves. I was getting a signal from the sound guy, and I was supposed to know what the signal meant. If you have signals, we could have gone over it beforehand, and you shouldn't have a signal by yourself. You should share that. That's like having one walkie-talkie. I'm just looking at you, and I didn't know whether to answer to you because it could have. But anyway, I was right in the middle of a horribly sad story.
So good timing.
But I was a little weird outcast who had mental health issues and didn't get along with people, didn't get along in school. There are kids that remember it as funny now because when you put it in perspective, the things that I did were funny. The only show I related to and that got laughter in the house and my parents kind of I understood it was Candid Camera. Because Alan Funt, who was my god, I'd watch it on Sunday night. I'd see him. He kind of like took the audience in on the joke. He goes, "Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tie a rope to this desk, and we're going to tell the lady that she's got to answer the phone. And every time the phone rings and she goes to answer it, we're going to pull the desk away and wait till you see what happens." And we couldn't wait for anticipation. And every time they pulled the desk away and I saw the lady's face, I was hysterical. And so were my parents. I said, this is comedy. So I want to go to school and do that. But I don't think things through. But I didn't have an audience. So I would like do things like, because I just thought it was weird, we'd have math on the second floor and of the school. And I would purposely arrive 10 minutes late. I'd find the ladder from the custodian's office, and I would climb up, knock on the window. The teacher would come incredulously to the window, open the window. I would crawl in seriously, just go sit down at my desk like nothing happened. And everybody just sat quietly. Nobody laughed. It's weird. I liked the weirdness, but it didn't gain me friends. So those are the kind. Eventually I got asked to leave the school. My behavior was not.
Did you do something posing as a school board member? Something about
I didn't pose as a school board member. I posed as myself because that was funny. I called through the yellow pages. I called a construction company, and I said I'm getting bids on an addition onto the library at our school, and I made an appointment, and I thought it was funny even to I'm Howie Mandel, and if you need anything, just ask for me. And it was fun to sit in class and look out the window, and these guys were out there measuring, and then I couldn't hear anything, but then I could see from the window, I was laughing alone, just alone, and the principal goes out, and I see the principal talking to them, and I assume the principal said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "We're bidding on the addition," and he would probably say, "Who authorized this?" And they would say, "Well, we have the name Howie Mandel." And then I see the principal go back in the office. Then you hear over the PA system, "Will Howie Mandel please come to the office?" And then I would be called to the office. I'd find this funny alone. I don't know. My mom and my wife, to this day, always say, "But Howie, I get it's a joke, but who are you entertaining?" You know, so I would sit down. The principal would say, "Did you authorize an addition onto the library?" I said, "No, I did not. I'm getting 3 bids." And then he would say, "Well, could you just stay here?" And they'd call my parents. And my parents would come in, and he'd explain to my parents in front of me, "Your son is authorizing getting bids on an addition to the and I could see my mother's, this is what I lived for, my mother's lip would quiver, and she'd be biting her lip like, you don't want to laugh because she was called in to discipline me. But I don't know what they expected her to say. We told them never to put an addition onto our school. And I knew this was funny, and it was funny in my own little world, but it was just funny for me, And I made that adage that every comic you've heard years and years. If I could just make one person laugh, I think I'm doing my job. I think for 2 decades that one person was just me, Nobody else was laughing, but I entertained myself. It was tough, but it got me through. I thought it was funny, and I was focused on being funny and weird and different, because if you looked at how I was dealing academically or socially, it was tragic. So there's a thin line between tragedy and comedy,
And now, is it true that you shaved your head because of your germ thing?
No, I shaved my head originally because I got a part in a movie, and I was going to be a bad guy, and, bad guys are bald guys.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I really thought that through. But I wanted to shave my head because I thought it would be cool. But then when I shaved my head, I realized this feels so clean. It feels like the first thing that's dirty that makes you, I take 3-4 showers a day. The first thing that feels dirty is your hair feels a little greasy, or you get up in the morning and it's, even if you're clean, your hair gets dirty before you. It just seems so clean. So it was, I kept it because of cleanliness. And then the problem was, so I didn't know where to stop shaving. I was shaving my face, and then I was, I had no sideburns. Then I played with it. Like when I shaved it, I made head art.
Yeah.
First I shaved just the middle, and I made myself Larry Fine from the Three Stooges.
Good for you.
And then I shaved the back out and the thing, and then I was Princess Leia. And then I shaved it off, and then I shaved my face. So it's just like I have a big face now, and then I noticed I had hair on my neck, and it wasn't stuff, so I shaved my neck, and then it looked like I had a hair dicky. I didn't know where to stop. And to this day, in the shower, I just shave every. There's no place to stop.
Now, okay.
You didn't ask me that.
So you shave your private parts.
Yeah.
Now,
Good question.
here's
Good
this.
question.
This brings me this. Surprisingly, I didn't draw a little picture of a dick in my notes.
Too much effort for him.
Now, I heard. Well, you for a while used to have like a little thing under your lip of whiskers.
Like,
Yeah, okay.
Like
Yeah.
a goat
You're
chip.
talking about like a what?
Like a goat chip. That's what they call that.
a goat chip?
Yeah.
No, they don't.
Yeah, sure.
Soul patch.
Yeah, it was like
Goat chip.
I've heard both.
it was a.
I've never heard goat chip. I'm older than you.
Darren, bear me out. Where are you?
It was kind of like
Goatee is here, is on the chin. This is a soul patch.
Yes, soul patch.
Goat chip is wrong.
All right.
The guy who's done all the
Google it.
research.
We'll Google
The
it.
guy who,
he does the research if it gets
so
it
are you
all
Googling
wrong.
now, the sound guy that with the signals? Google it. You see goat chip? Goat chip to me would be a piece of shit in a field of a shepherd.
See, I
Don't step in the goat chip. And that's not what was under my lip. I would never put goat shit on my face.
I thought of it as a Hitler mustache gone
Too
wrong.
low?
Yes.
Yeah, hanging low Hitler.
But
no, what it was is because when I shaved my head originally, people were saying to me that I'd walk in because I think, oh, you're going to
Yeah.
say I'm bald, and I didn't get the connotation right away, and they went, "Are you okay?" So they thought I had chemo.
Oh, geez.
So they thought. So then I grew a little piece of goat shit under my lip. So that is it. I see you looking.
I'm looking
Goat
for it.
shit.
Yeah, if you have to look this long, things come up this fast.
Yeah.
There's no goats. But anyway, I grew the hair just
Yeah,
so people wouldn't say you're sick.
Ireland.
Now,
In
I-
Ireland?
Maybe in Ireland.
It's not in Ireland. Google, that's the World Wide Web person. Where did you hear it? That's a goat chip.
Now, I heard then you saw in like a hair place the.
No, this is, yes, I know what
Yeah,
you're talking
yes.
about. The biggest honor I've had. You know, I got on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which was nice. I got in Canada in the Canada's Walk of Fame. But the most prestigious thing I ever saw is when Deal or No Deal came out. Deal or No Deal was huge at the moment. It's probably the biggest success I've had in my career. You know, it was the game show. Everybody was saying Deal or No Deal. And my wife's friend went to one of these lady places where they do electrolysis and waxing and whatever. And there's a menu that you women look at. I'm talking to the photographer. Is there a menu at those places? Yeah, so you choose.
Like the Brazilian.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Goat chip.
Yeah, goat chip. Do you have goat shit there?
Yeah.
If you have a goat chip there, you're wiping the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Okay. So
They remove hair from.
wait, you got something?
Might be here.
Goat
Goat chop. It's coming.
Goat
Oh,
chop.
just go ahead.
It's coming.
Go ahead.
Part of a
But-
goatee.
So this hair
Okay.
place that does Brazilian waxes and
The
everything.
runway.
Yeah. Oh, the runway. Right.
Yes, and
Yeah.
but I know your wife is signaling for the hearing impaired who
Yeah.
are. This is closed caption your podcast.
Okay.
She's signaling with the
Yeah.
shape of a runway on a vagina.
Yeah.
There. I knew what it was. But anyway, the Howie Mandel.
Yeah.
So they had the Howie Mandel, that shape of the thing under my lip, where you could go in when Deal or No Deal was at its height. Women could go into the waxing place and order the Howie Mandel on their vagina, which I thought was better than putting your hands in cement at Man's Chinese Theater.
an honor.
Except for my son, and they said that a lot of people were asking for it because it's kind of a neat
Yeah.
look. You know, it looks like my face, like exactly like my face, except that the mouth was vertical instead of horizontal. Has a goat chip come in your way? Did it come in?
I'm passing it off. All Frank.
Go ahead, Frank. What are you reading there?
Chin puff. What is this? Chin puff? Chin strip? Facial hair. Where does it say goat chip?
It doesn't.
The chin of a goat. That's the best you could do for me?
The chin of a goat. Yeah, no, I didn't have that. Anyway, you're just wrong.
So
I was thinking that my son, who is, active and dating, you met him, he's here today. I thought if this takes off, how horrible. I mean, I was honored, but how horrible would it be for a young man to get a young lady home and work diligently at getting her pants down? Her pants come down. That's the last place you want to see Dad. But so I don't know if they still do that. It's not big.
So-
I shaved it off. This is a Brazilian. You can call that a Brazilian now, is what I have.
So you had your face on girls' vaginas for
I did.
a while.
God knows I tried.
Yeah. Now, is it true you used to pee in your pants? You
Yes.
said that. Yeah.
Yes. Because I didn't want to. Well, no. Didn't everybody at some point?
Well, yes. No, I'm talking about past the point.
That I told you I
should-
used to pee in my
Well,
pants?
now you didn't tell me personally. I thought you were on a talk show.
I was on a talk show and I peed in my
You-
pants? I don't know that story,
I don't
but I'll
either.
go. I don't
Stump
know
me.
that
The
story.
McNair-Lair report, I think you were on.
I peed on the McNair-Lair report.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm sure I have
Yeah.
peed in my pants. I don't remember telling the story. But was it a good story? If you remember, why don't you look through your notes, Gilbert, and tell me where you heard the story about me peeing my pants?
I remember.
I remember that. Okay, I remember telling a story in my book.
Yes.
That when one time I didn't want to go into the bathroom and I was trying to hold it in when I was a little boy in school.
Yeah.
And I couldn't hold it in, so I peed in my pants. But I didn't want anybody to know I peed in my pants, so I ran a half a mile away from the school and jumped in a ditch. Came back to school with my pants all wet, and it wasn't embarrassing to tell people that I had fallen in a ditch 2 miles from the school in no direction of my home. Or how did I fall? Where did I slip and roll 2.5 miles in no particular direction to fall into a ditch? Is that the story?
Yes.
Okay.
That's some
Yes, that
research you've
happened.
done, Gil.
Now, what's funny? Like before, and this is so strange that you were looking at my notes that nobody can make head or tail.
I
out
understand every note you've made.
of. Yes.
I know every note. You want to go through that? You started P. You know what's next?
Yes.
The warts.
Yes. Tell us about the warts.
Okay.
This is so weird.
This is-
no. I can barely
No, I know what this is
decipher
about.
my own notes.
Actually, the
Yeah.
warts in my therapy, this is what my psychiatrist believes was the trauma that started my OCD, my anxiety disorder. So I went to Florida with my parents, and I was sitting on the sand, and apparently a sandfly bit me and laid eggs in my skin. I didn't know. It got like stung, but I didn't know that. So I had like these little. It looked like a mosquito bite, right? And is that the story? There's another one.
There's another one.
Are you
Yeah.
talking about the Purell?
Yes.
Well, I'll tell
Well,
both
tell
of these.
both. Tell both.
Okay, so I have a lot of wart stories.
Okay.
A lot of people have war stories. I have wart stories because I go to parties with what are skin doctors called?
A dermatologist.
Dermatologists. That's where I like to party. I like to party. So other people go tell war stories. I go out with dermatologists and tell them wart stories and other kind of infections. But anyway, the warts that you're talking about real
Yes.
quickly are, I used to use Purell because I used to shake everybody's hand when I did it, and I used to use Purell so much so that even in the talk show, which you did, were
Yeah.
kind enough to do when I had a talk show in the 90s, when people would come on, I would dip my hands into a bucket of Purell. And I also had my friend who's a surgeon gave me that betadine that they use to scrub up before they do surgery, and I did that. And then what happened is I started noticing warts all over I was getting warts. So I went to a dermatologist, and the dermatologist explained to me that I had killed all the antibodies, even the good bacteria, so much so that when I touched a door now, that bacteria would just infect me and I would get warts so I don't use antibacterial antibacterial anymore. So I just don't touch anything. But I don't use antibacterial. But the story that I was telling you, because there's another story. I got more warts. Would you like to hear a wart story, or I have a pussing boil song? I also have a anal fissure poem.
It'd be nice if we could ask you a show business question at some point during the interview.
It's all show business.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm in
wait.
show business. I
Wait.
had a wart.
Can we talk about this one?
What's that?
That's show business.
Yeah,
I was
that's
on the
show-
road in Chicago.
Okay.
And I listened to the radio, and I hear. Were you on the radio?
I was on the radio. I was working in Chicago. I had a club.
doing show business.
Yeah.
Comedy.
Doing
We were both
showbiz.
on tour doing comedy,
And
making money.
You were
Unlike
there.
I'm doing today. There's no money in this podcast, right?
We apologize.
You
Well,
were.
if you paid me, you couldn't afford a staff like this. The fact that you can't pay a guest, that's show business. You have a staff of 30 here.
You were
Oh,
there.
there's a guy
I
still,
gotta show you this.
the guy with the camera.
I'm still looking for
Yeah.
the goat chart, but this.
What is
all
that?
16 different types of facial hair on Wikipedia, and look who they have for the.
Soul Patch.
Yes.
Do you know that I'm also, there's an 80s book if you find on the mullet? I'm in the mullet book too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I believe that.
I'm thinking of growing back a mullet.
So
but anyway,
I was on the radio.
I said Gilbert.
Yeah.
You're in town. I'm right down the street. I'm at the
you
hotel.
were promoting your book on being a germaphobe.
Well,
in
the
Chicago.
book is on me.
Yes.
I just happen to be a germaphobe.
Yeah, but you were talking about it a lot on the radio.
I'm
and
talking
the
about it a
paper.
lot on this podcast.
Yes, but so okay, go ahead.
I said, come on over for lunch. I'll meet you in the lobby. And I'm thrilled to see my friend. We're on the road. We're nowhere. And Gilbert comes in. I give him a little hug. He sits down. We order a tea. And he proceeds to hawk a loogie. He calls it a cough. He had, a sound came out of him.
He told me this.
Oh, I'm telling you, you never heard a cough. You know how old people, I'm telling you, pieces of his ass were coming up. It was so deep. It was phlegm and bile and shit. And I thought it was like a joke. I looked, I said, what is that? He goes, I got a little cough. A little fucking cough. It was like Typhoid Mary was sitting with me. I freaked out.
Yeah,
I got in a hot sweat.
You wrapped a scarf around
I
your
had a
face.
scarf because it was winter months. I wrapped a scarf around. I looked like it was Taliban and a lung cancer patient sitting together.
And
in
you
the
were
lobby.
saying, what are you, sick?
Right, and you
Yeah,
go, nah,
you're
it's just a
petty.
little,
Yeah.
a little. But you never heard anything. You can't. I can't even. That sounds like health compared to what I.
Yes, I
saw.
was that gurgling cough.
But and I remember you telling me this. Don't worry, it's good as
Yeah,
long
yeah,
as it's loose.
okay, yeah.
You said if it's loose. I'll worry if it tightens up. But as long as it's loose, I'm in a good shape. I'm at the end of it now. And I'm thinking, like, am I supposed to think, oh, thank God, it's all loose. It's heading my way.
Yeah.
And you don't, and when you coughed, your mouth,
Yeah.
your jaw dropped open, and it was just...
It was
you
one
could
of those...
see the upholstery from the chair he was sitting in getting sucked up his ass. He had such a deep cough.
And my whole body would quiver.
And mine did too, out of fear.
Like
his did.
I was having an epileptic fit when I was coughing. It was
How long did you have that for?
I had it a while.
Yeah.
And I remember you were turning your head, and I was saying, you think by turning your head you're getting away from the
Yeah, you said
dirt?
nothing comforting.
Yes.
Nothing
yes.
comforting.
And I remember you just said, fuck you, Gilbert.
Yeah, fuck you. People are stupid when they're sick, and you're stupid too. They are. What are you doing out? Why wouldn't you say you've known me for 30 years? I have a cough. I'll see you another time. Or let's talk on the phone.
That would have been
Or let's just sit back to back and reminisce. Why would you do it? You're like the fucking...
Back to back.
Yeah.
A lunch where you sit back to back.
We're talking. It doesn't matter whether we... I don't need the face. He's a vessel of phlegm. It's like that fucking nurse who was looking after Ebola patients going, is it okay if I take a fucking cruise? I called the doctor. They said, is it okay if I take a cruise? That's the same thing as him showing up to me, the germaphobe, with this.
Could we segue into...
That was show business.
You were
good.
twisting in a ball. In the
fetal
chair.
position, yeah.
Yeah.
You still know how to treat a gunshot wound to the chest, I understand,
do.
from your years on
For
St.
6
Elsewhere.
years, I played a doctor. Maybe that made me a germaphobe. I played a doctor on St. Elsewhere. And the shit that you have to remember sticks in your head and doesn't go away. So I still know what to do. It's D5 lactated ringers, colloids, O-negative blood, an intubation tray with a 20... What is ringing? Did you hear that beeping sound? But when you moved your ass... It's your camera. It's your social media guy.
Start all over. Give us the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when
you played Dr. Fiscus.
Yes.
Yes.
How come your social media guy has a beeper? Nobody has carried a beeper since 1974. This is the guy they have on social media. He's got a beeper and a boombox.
So
He can't hear me because his Walkman is on.
Poor Darren.
But here's what you do to a gun. This is in my head. I can't get it out. I don't know. I'll never be able to use this, but it's D5 lactated ringers, colloids, O-negative blood, an intubation tray with a 22-centimeter endotracheal tube, an open thoracotomy tray, and 2 number 16 central intravenous catheters, and a mass suit stat. Now, why does that need to be in my head? I remember learning it, and you know what the thing was? The thing was that I got to a point where I really believed, after 6 years on a medical show, that I could help people. And people would actually come up when you play a doctor on TV. People believe they don't know the difference between reality and fantasy of television. So people would come up to me and go, "I love your character. Hey, can I be honest with you? There's like I don't know if I'm chafed. I don't know if they'd start telling me their problems like I'm gonna."
That's kind of like how they used to have that commercial where it goes, "I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV."
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, I find commercials on TV, anything medical is ridiculous anyway now, especially now. And I think it's a great fodder for a lot of comedians who talk about, first of all, I think half the diseases are made up. Well, maybe they're not, and I shouldn't knock them, but restless leg syndrome.
Gilbert has that. He suffers from that.
No, maybe it's real. And if you're out there and you're a Gilbert Godfrey fan and you're sitting there shaking a leg, I apologize. But how would you even, how would you even know that? Because I'm hyper and I'm always tapping my foot. And my wife, like your wife, says, "Do you have to pee?" Except mine, it's never. No, but it's never no. It's because I'm always jumping around and moving my leg. But I didn't know there was a syndrome and there was something to take. So there's a pill now that you could take for restless leg syndrome. But then by law, you have to get the possible side effects.
Side effects.
Yeah, which
That's always the weird. I mean, it's always made fun of,
Right.
but it's so insane. They play like really pretty music,
Yes.
and they're dancing around on the sand
Yes.
and running on the beach, and they're talking about how you could have a stroke,
Yes.
you can go blind.
Right. You can go blind. You can have a stroke. You will lose all motor skills.
Incontinence.
Incontinence. You'll have that. But your leg will be as still as a tree. So who cares? Good news and bad news.
Can we ask you about some of the actors you worked with on St. Elsewhere?
You want to? Frank prepared
We don't
so
have
much.
to.
Frank,
We don't have
wait,
to.
we're not even. Let's go to some of these.
Or we do a whole show about body fluid.
I understand all these questions. He does. You know what's really funny? There is probably more content in this than there is in all the pages.
Possibly. Quite possibly.
Yes, his little page. What did he
Finally,
write on the
someone
back?
who understands me. This is so insane.
But you cut a piece of a script.
A script, yes.
What was this a script for?
I'll get a script and I'll just use it for scrap paper.
Because you don't want to pay for new paper.
Yeah, why pay for a pen?
understand.
I
He hands
take
him the
my
photo and
script-
walks off with the baby. This is the part of Steve. Were you reading for the part
I
of
don't
Steve?
think I was Steve in this.
Steve says, "Don't really care."
Can I see if I can work out which one this was?
Yes.
Let's see.
So they say, Gilbert, we're doing a television show. We're doing a movie. Can we send you a script? You say, "Yeah, I got a podcast. I need more paper. Send it right over."
I know it obviously had a brick starter guy.
What's a brick starter?
I have no idea.
It's not even a bricklayer.
But I guess I was in this.
You were Steve.
Yeah.
Is it
On your
Cyber
line.
Chase?
Or the bricklayer.
It's not a bricklayer. It's a brick starter.
Now you worked with Mousy Gardner.
Oh, there you
That's what it
go.
says on your
Yeah,
note.
that's
Right there.
yes.
How are you
Yes.
following this shit? Mousy Gardner was in a video that I did, the Watusi tour,
Watusi.
and I was fascinated by the guy because I love the Three Stooges, and he was the last living connection to the. Wasn't he? I think he was in their vaudeville.
I
show.
believe he was.
He was in their vaudeville. He's no longer with us.
Yeah.
I don't think.
No, he passed.
He passed, but he's I'm fascinated by that era. I'm fascinated by those people, and if I just meet somebody who, had something to do with the.
Well, you're our second guest to work with Mousy Gardner.
Who was the
Josh
first?
Mostel in
Oh,
the
wow.
Stooge Mania movie.
Wow.
And I think Mousy Gardner was with Sammy Wolf in like the Gentlemaniacs. They used to.
Who
call
is Sammy Wolf?
He's the father of Warner
The
Wolf,
sportscaster Warner
sports
Wolf.
guy, and
Yeah.
he was a stooge.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they never got as famous as the famous Stooges.
Well, there was 5 famous Stooges, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Mo, Larry, Curly,
Shemp.
And Joe
Joe
DeRita.
Bessa.
Oh, well, 6. Joe DeRita.
Yeah.
And those are the only ones I know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Hi. You're playing back the podcast? Wow. This crack team that you got. One of the guys that is here recording the podcast, decided it's ended. He's editing this. I don't even know if you're going to ever hear this part. But he put on headsets and then played it back for us.
There have been more interruptions than an actual interview.
You know what's
during
weird?
This interview.
You know what's weird? Because we're in my dressing room at Radio City Music Hall. I'm about to go on at AGT. And I said to them, the door was wide open when they started. And I said to Frank and Gilbert, should I close the door? And they go, yeah, that would be great. And I closed the door. Nobody's even near my hallway. There isn't the sound and radio. All the noise, the social media guy is beeping. The tech guy who said get closer to the mic, he's worried about sound, is doing some sort of playback from 2 podcasts ago. It's just, what? All the noise is in here. But I get it. You wanted the door closed so we don't disturb the America's Got Talent
And there were
production.
about
Chelsea Garner fans.
50 interruptions to the show about, I think we found something about a chip, goat chip. Was that,
Yeah, here's the closest I got. I got a goat chin. Look at this. Want to read about the goat chin?
Like they would interrupt a story.
This
to
just
go,
in.
well, yeah.
What is amazing about this whole process is this is the only thing that has made sense. This is linear, and when I say this, I'm holding up Gilbert's scribblings. And I swear to you, I'm not making a joke here. He is kept in perfect order of everything he has prepared, every question he has done. He knows that there
Show
is
the
a
spelling
story.
of gremlins.
Doesn't matter. The spelling doesn't count. He didn't do it like you with spell check. I know what it is.
I get it.
He knows what it is. It's the way I spell, and this is brought to you by The Less You Know. It's the opposite of what NBC promotes. Kids, stay out of school.
Speaking of classic,
Because the 2 kids that stayed out of school here are able to get this done from beginning to end. Everybody else all these tech people are really fucked up. It wasn't worth staying in college, doing prep.
I know.
Have you even looked at
all
one
these
fucking
notes, Howie.
card?
All
Have
the
you looked
effort.
how come no other card except my introduction is taped together?
well, I managed to squeeze. Speaking of the Do the Watusi video,
Yeah.
I think Gilbert would find it interesting that there are midgets in it. That it ends with
Little people.
yes.
Why do you,
Well, he likes to.
I like
can't-
midgets.
He likes midgets. He prefers
Yeah.
midgets.
you don't say that.
Oh, midgets. I just
No,
said
you don't.
No one's listening
Yeah.
to the show.
No, you don't. You don't say that. Little people. They're not. They're not midgets. They're not midgets.
Now, what's the difference?
What if, though, you know what I wanted to do once? I wanted to do a remake of Gidget with a midget.
Gidget?
With a midget.
Yeah.
About a young girl at the beach. A short young woman at the beach. What's that song? What was the song from that show?
Oh, I forget how
Gidget
that went.
No.
I'm sure they'll be into.
Yeah.
See, I wish to God you hadn't said that, because now they'll be coming in with, well, here's one version of the song, and here's another. Well, we just found this one.
Really,
the
You're gonna
Gidget
get-
theme?
You think that we're going to generate some mail?
Now, you just got in trouble.
I did.
Yeah, tell us what you
You
got
wouldn't
in
understand
trouble.
what that's like.
No,
would you?
Thank God I've stayed out of the press.
It's really amazing now. And all kidding aside, I got in trouble and I apologized. You apologized for like 9 months. I
Yeah.
love that. I followed you on Twitter. You would every joke was an
I
apology.
do a knock-knock joke and then
I'm sorry.
apologize to
Yes.
doors
Yes.
that I've knocked on.
Yes. But we live in a time now where they call it social media, and it's not really media used to be you had a media pass where you were somebody who worked for some sort of publication that had
You
credentials.
had a reason to be there.
And now you could be in your underpants in your room with an iPhone, and you're part of the social media, so you can create a firestorm, and move the needle. Which is really scary for us. And when I say us as comedians and people in show business, but more importantly, comedians, because, when you and I were coming up, the way you write comedy, the way it's not like you write music, not like you write a movie, not like you write a TV show, not like you practice acting, not like you do anything. It's by trial and error. and we used to be able to go to the Comedy Store where nobody would, or Improv or wherever you were Catch Here or wherever you were, and there weren't even recording devices, but you can go on stage and we could talk about our epic fails, where I went on one night and you were always very controversial, which was wonderful, and you're known for pushing the limit, and that's what got you a career. That's what got you a name. That's what everybody loved about you. By the same token, you were responsible enough to get on, as we all were, to get on national television and do things. And we understood, we're not idiots. We understood the line that we wouldn't cross. And sometimes we did cross the line, and there was a little news about it, but you'd apologize, and you worked with these people. And now what happens is on social media and on television, we will say things as comedians, and granted, there is no intention to hurt somebody's feelings. And I feel like if I've hurt somebody's feelings, then I should apologize, because that's not my intention. My intention was to try to be funny, to try to get a laugh. If it didn't get a laugh, I'm probably going to suffer more for it. If you suffer for it because you are offended by it, now, and if one or two people are offended by it, I said something, and I have mental health issues. I said something about an eating disorder. There's nothing funny about an eating disorder. But the truth of the matter is, the comedy does come from a dark place. No comedy comes from a positive place. If you're laughing, even a little kid who goes see a clown fall down and everybody laugh, you're laughing at the clown's misfortune. You're laughing at somebody else's ineptness. When two guys walk into a bar, something shitty happens to one guy, and that's why you're laughing. And if you look at the oldest vaudeville, A Pie in the Face, you're laughing at, an embarrassing, somebody's suit is ruined, you're squirting seltzer on them. It's always bad. So if you realize that it always comes from negative, that's why it's called a sense of humor. Comedians find humor have a sense of humor in a place that is not funny. Bad relationships, awkward moments, scary things, illnesses, mental health. That's the seed for all comedy. For me, laughter has gotten me through and given me the ability to just even really survive. And beyond making a living and being a comedian, if I wasn't laughing at half the shit that's horrible in my life, I would be crying and probably, end it. But the truth is, I laugh at it. But now that I've opened, and like you have, opened ourselves up in social media, and we try our comedy, we're not just on stage, but we'll try something. Maybe we miss. Maybe it misfires. The slapback is, beyond anything I could ever comprehend. It's so painful. It hurts. We lose jobs. We humiliate ourselves. We have to apologize. And it kind of, I'm not saying we should be able to do it, but it kind of takes away the art of comedy. And the art of comedy is that freedom, like a painter has, to throw any color on a canvas. And if the color doesn't look good, he can throw another color on top and shade it and make that painting. But a comedian can't. He throws that canvas out there, and everybody goes, fuck you, you're fired, goodbye, you offended. And as a person who is, I think most of us who are comedians are somewhat sensitive, I apologized. And I'm sorry if I offended people, and I understand the tragedy connected to mental health. I deal with it each and every day, and I didn't intend on doing that. And, but I felt responsible as a broadcaster to apologize, because there are people that say I shouldn't apologize. I will apologize to anybody whose feelings I hurt. But I'm more concerned about people getting hurt over something. I guess it's not good enough anymore to go, just joking. I'm not serious.
What's funny about it is, like, when Karen Carpenter died, she had an eating disorder, the singer of the Carpenters.
What's funny about it?
Yeah,
Gilbert?
well, but everybody in the street, all the good people, were saying stuff like, if Mama Cass gave her ham sandwich to Karen Carpenter, both of them would be alive.
Right.
And what's Karen Carpenter's phone number? 8-0-8-0-8-0.
Right. And those are jokes that the public was using, and it was acceptable. We're in a different day and age now, and that is that we have given power to people that really don't know what to do with that power. You know, you could light a firestorm with words. You could not at that time light a firestorm. You know, I would imagine that even in that day when people were making the Karen Carpenter joke, and that was the days when we were coming up, I'm sure that they bumped into somebody who went, well, that's not right. You know, my sister has an eating disorder. She almost died, and I don't appreciate that joke. And you would go, sorry, I didn't mean to tell the joke. You know, I remember we used to do a joke like that, not like that, in schoolyards. And I think everybody did this. But they would say, go up to Gilbert and tell him that you met your retarded friend, that you have a retarded friend.
I know this one.
So you would go up to Gilbert, and this in the schoolyard, 4 or 5 years old, and you'd go, hey, Gilbert, I met my retarded friend. And the joke was, because you were in on it, Gilbert would go, that's not funny. My brother's retarded. And then the person would feel bad, right? We all did that joke, right?
There was also like, hey, I heard your sister's a good dancer.
Oh, right,
and you
that was
go,
it.
you know, my sister had her legs amputated.
I did that one too, right. But you remember, I think every kid remembers doing it who's our age.
Go to?
Frank, I'm telling you, I'm from Canada. He's from New York. Everybody our age heard those kind of jokes. And the joke was about saying something that you didn't realize. You were trying to say something funny because somebody sent you over, and you jokingly offended them. You know, you didn't know it was a joke, and you would go, sorry, I don't know. You told me to say it. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings.
You know my sister's
But you know that it would be stopped right there.
Yeah.
If that happened publicly, like on a podcast or something, and you do it, it would be tasteless because people would write in and go, you know what? My sister does have a double amputation, and it's not funny. And I agree with you. It's not funny. It's not funny to you, and you don't have to enjoy it. But we are coming to a point where we have to stop doing what we do. And you know what? First and foremost, you know, you cut off our legs as far as being artistic and being funny. But more importantly, you're cutting off your access to comedy, because as people get more and more frightened to do what Gilbert and I do, and less people are doing it, I think the world suffers. We suffer first because we lose jobs and we won't do it, and we can't show up, and we don't say it, and we edit ourselves. But the world loses, because I truly believe, this sounds so corny, but laughter is the best medicine, and you got to be able to laugh at the darkest moments. You know, the hardest day of my life was the day I buried my father. The funniest moments that I've ever experienced happened in that day. And when I tell those stories to my close friends, we are hysterical in tears. But I get it that some people can't find. I think most of the world does not have a sense of humor, and that word sense is to be able to find the humor where other people don't think it is. Unless it's like I don't like jokes because they're fake. It's a rhythm, and people go, you want to hear a funny joke? I don't want to hear a funny joke, but if you tell me something that sounds like it's real, that's what I laugh at.
And I always notice too, at a funeral, you'll always see one person lean over to the other person sitting there with a smirk on their face like they're saying something, and the other person will cover their face so they can't see them laughing, and they go, oh, stop it, that's awful.
Right.
And that's part of being normal.
But that's almost but that feeling of being of holding it in and you're not supposed to do it makes it more titillating, makes it more exciting, makes it more, it's kind of like
you're going in a dark place.
You're going in a dark place, and that makes for better comedy. Doing it where you're not supposed to do it. It's almost like sex in public. You know, where you don't do it, it makes it more titillating, it makes it more, and people will do it, but they keep it amongst themselves. But in this day and age of social media, we can't share that. And we used to be able to share it. I remember getting up. I watched one of my biggest influences in how I work and write comedy right now is Richard Pryor. Yeah. And when I first, in the late 70s, when I first came to Los Angeles and I went to the Comedy Store, I watched Richard Pryor every single night get up on stage and put together what later became Live on the Sunset Strip, his movie. But I watched him work every night, and nobody pushed the envelope, especially at that time, more than Richard Pryor. Really, he pushed it, but it comes from a dark place.
Because that one's after the accident, isn't it?
It was after he got burned. He was talking about getting burned.
Right.
It was part of his...
He told the bad taste joke about Richard Pryor.
He told a joke about Richard Pryor. He talked about his upbringing.
Right.
He talked about, he was raised in a whorehouse.
Right.
He had a horrible, dark upbringing. He was so raw. That was the beauty of him. He was lovable. He was raw. He was real. He would not exist today. Could not exist today if he was starting now. But it worked then. And it's a shame that that's one of that he's the Picasso of what we do. And Picasso can't live anymore. They can't try anymore. They can't really. And we don't know, unlike an artist, a painter, the only place that we could try our material to really know if it's going to do is public. And whether it's social media or whatever, because how do we know? Sometimes we think we always look for stage time to hear the laughter. If we can't hear the laughter and we're sitting at home and we text something, we see the response. That's hysterical. People share it. Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm going to put that in my act. I'll do that. That's good. That's not good. We should not be crucified for saying something. I promise you, I'm going to say a lot of stupid things. I do. A lot of stupid things come into my head, a lot of things that are inappropriate, things that I shouldn't say. If anybody gets hurt, I apologize, but it's a real hard time for every
You
comic.
find that audiences, I was just going to ask that question. You find that these are PC times. I'm talking about Seinfeld said he wasn't going to play colleges anymore.
College
because
is more
of the,
PC
because
than
of the
any
PC.
other place, and you'd think kids would be more open to it. No, PC is killing it.
You find that, Gilbert?
Yeah, and I remembered, I got fired because I joked about the tsunami. And somebody tweeted me, and it was my favorite tweet. He said, Affleck fires Gilbert Gottfried after discovering he's a comedian.
But that's true.
And that's it. That's it.
true. It's so sad and such a statement beyond, listen, my heart goes out to you and whatever loss you had for that. But it's such a sad statement of where our society is today. Because at the same time, when we are in conflicts all over the world and young men and women are giving their lives and we are fighting for freedom, what is the freedom that we are fighting for? Because really, our own people are taking away the freedom. You can't say that. You can't do that. You can't act like that. So really, there's a great dichotomy. So this conversation about comedy has gotten really dark, and there probably is something to be said funny about it, but it is a very serious conversation that, it's not like it was, Gilbert. It's not like it was, but I'm still thrilled to both of us. I think we're lucky guys that we get to do what we do. We get to work. We didn't finish high school, and we're both still here and making a living doing what we love.
And he's one of the last guys still doing really politically incorrect material on stage, and getting away with it.
I hope to God he never stops.
Yeah.
What Gilbert is known for is, beyond being brilliant, and I think it's shocking that you didn't go to college, and because you have a great understanding of human nature, and you seem to be a lot more educated than maybe the formal education would have given you, but you were always cringeworthy. You were always but in a positive way.
Yes.
I remember because it's a different time, but I remember walking in New York in the 70s and going to a club, and I walked into a club and saw Gilbert posing as Christ on the cover of TV Guide.
There's pictures of it
on TV Guide.
Yes.
And at that time, you go, oh my God, because there's going to be some very religious people in the audience who aren't, and it was fun to not only hear the joke and guffaw about whatever it was he was saying, but look at the audience, go, oh my God, I can't believe he said that.
Well, he hasn't given in to the times in many ways. I mean,
he should never.
You're one of the few comics that are still doing funny Asian voices on stage.
It's brilliant.
Keeping the Mickey Rooney
keeping the breakfast
tradition alive. Well, I remember when Michael Richards got in trouble, and there too, at a club, but now everyone's got a phone that records everything. So he got in trouble, and the owner of that club then started saying, anyone who uses that word, he used the N-word on stage, so anyone who uses that word is going to be sued, and they're going to take this amount of money out of his pay. And I was thinking, like, wouldn't it? I would rather go to a club where they say, hey, you might get offended, you might get really shocked and angry, but we're not censoring anything.
As a comedian, yes.
Yeah.
But as a, I see both sides of this, as a businessman, Jamie, it's good for the comedian. Yes. As a businessman, I think that the public will go, if he promotes that you will not see anything that offensive here, I think that a lot of Americans will say, we can go to that club because we're not going to be offended, and we know that's a good club, and
because
we can go to.
Because it makes them feel good about themselves.
You're not buying tickets; they're buying tickets. So who's he serving? And
I also feel like people pat themselves on the back when they're offended, like, oh, I was offended by that. I'm a good person.
Well, they become the spokesperson for the cause, and everybody. I like that people are passionate about a cause and do something for a cause. It's just that, you got to put things into perspective. Listen, everybody alive can be offended and suffers, and everybody's got a cross to bear. And, I will say things and I will apologize and I will hurt people's feelings. But I'm much more cautious than I ever was when I was a young kid coming up. And that's sad.
Can we ask you about working with Blake Edwards?
I loved working with Blake Edwards. I'll tell you a serious story about. He told me a story that I quoted in my book, and the one story was, he said, and this kind of reminded me of myself and a lot of comics, but he told a story about Boffo, about this guy who goes to a psychiatrist because he's darkly depressed.
Oh, I know.
You know this story?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people have told this story before, but he goes, and the guy gives him, psychotherapy, and there's nothing he can do. The guy's in the fetal position, and he's crying, and he's, like, on the edge. He wants to take his life. He just wants to shoot himself in the head. And he goes back another time, and they prescribe medication, and medication doesn't do it. And the psychiatrist is at his wit's end, and he says, I've got one more remedy. If this doesn't work, nothing's going to work, and you probably won't survive. And he goes, well, what's the one more thing? He goes, the circus is in town. Boffo the clown is this world-renowned clown who makes everyone laugh. There's nobody doesn't matter what language, how old you are, there is nobody that sees Boffo the clown that doesn't laugh. And if I could just get you to laugh, laughter does release endorphins and it'll turn you around, but he makes people almost die laughing. People are in throngs of people in the stands are laughing at Boffo. They can't even stop laughing. The show goes on for an hour longer than it should be because nobody could stop laughing. This guy is laughter, the epitome of laughter. I got 2 tickets tonight. I'm taking you. You will sit and you will watch Boffo the clown, and nobody who's ever seen him can stop laughing. And he turned to the psychiatrist and he said, I am Boffo the clown. And I thought that was pretty emblematic of, comedians, because sometimes the dichotomy between the outside and the inside, and that's who Blake Edwards was. He was like a tortured soul who made some of the greatest comedies of our time.
He really did.
Yeah. And, laughter is a great bridge. And laughter has brought me together with a friend like Gilbert. And laughter has allowed me to be on this podcast.
Except for that lunch in Chicago.
Laughter brings us together. Phlegm tears us apart. And on that note, thank you, Gilbert. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. Next time we'll do it again. Next time we'll go through some of these other cards and questions.
Yeah, you got another card.
We never got to.
But we got through the 2 sheets.
We got through Gilbert's sheets.
Well, I'm Gilbert Gottfried. This has been Gilbert Gottfried's amazing Colossal podcast with my co-host, Frank Santopadre, and our guest and friend, Howie Mandel.
Thank you.
Thanks, Howie.